Here we go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Judge Bruce here. Another What's Next. Happy Thursday to you all. As we continue with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, the drama, and all the, sadly, the shenanigans behind it, we've learned a couple of new things. We've learned that those lovely, wonderful protesters, those peaceful protesters, Black Lives Matter, the Antifa type thug, punk-ass bitches, have been starting a little trouble. And, unfortunately, arrests were made. But we're not here to talk about that, nor are we here to talk about the jury, which has not given a verdict after day 2. And we kind of all know why. Well, it comes down to two things. We're talking about true justice, acquittal, self-defense, versus covering your own ass because of all the media shenanigans that are going on outside of that courtroom. They have to do what's right. The evidence is overwhelmingly clear to free Kyle Rittenhouse. But with all that going on, this video is not about that. This video is about two different situations that are going on. One, from the judge himself, and two, from a famous political commentator. Let's take a look. This comes out of Breitbart. Rittenhouse jury asked about videos. Judge, my nightmare has come true. The jury in the murder trial of Kyle Rittenhouse asked Judge Bruce Schroeder in the Kenosha County Court on Wednesday morning whether it should view video evidence in court or in private, prompting the judge to quip, "My nightmare has come true." The judge was referring to controversies over the video evidence presented by the prosecution during the trial, including whether zoomed-in images enhanced by artificial intelligence, which I just aforementioned, were admissible, and whether the prosecution withheld a higher resolution video of a video in that version that had been provided to the defense until the last day of the trial. Gee, why would they do that? The defense moved to dismiss the case on Tuesday, arguing that the prosecution had improperly withheld evidence. It was not immediate clear which video in particular the jury was asked to review on the second day deliberations. The jury asked two questions. One, about where to view the video, and the other, the numberings of video evidence exhibits. During closing arguments last Friday, the prosecution attempted to use high-resolution video to argue that Rittenhouse had raised his rifle and aimed it before he was charged by that wonderful pedophile, Joe Rosenbaum, the first person he shot in the riot August 25th of last year. The defense argued, with the jury absent, that the prosecution had used an invalid method to enhance the image and told the jury that Rittenhouse had been facing the opposite direction and would have not aimed the rifle with his left hand. How easily it is to manipulate video. You got 10-year-olds who can do this on Photoshop. Ultimately, the judge said the jury would view the video in court with all spectators and lawyers present. With all spectators and lawyers absent. Judge Schroeder also addressed the controversy in the media, including his decision to prohibit the prosecution from referring to 3 men shot by Rittenhouse, one whom survived and testified as victims, because we all know they weren't. They were the attackers. His unusual practice of allowing the defendant to draw the number of 6 alternate jurors out of a barrel, and his delay on defense motions to dismiss the case. He also blasted harassment directed against both prosecution and defense attorneys, calling it shameful, some of the things that are being done to these people. He added that he may not be inclined to allow trials to be televised in the future. On Tuesday, the first day of deliberations, the jury was asked specifically for 11 additional copies of instructions on self-defense. The request to review video evidence suggests that they were studying the questions on self-defense very closely. That's a good thing. That's a good sign. All right. Now here comes your opinion piece. This comes from Ann Coulter, who's a very well-known political commentator, mainly on the right. Her article is Get Rittenhouse. In his prosecution of Kyle Rittenhouse, Kenosha County Assistant District Attorney Thomas Binger, yes, that wonderful Thomas Binger, who basically held the gun, finger on the trigger, at everybody in the courtroom. That guy. Yeah, clown. Drew so many well-earned rebukes from the judge that some speculated he was intentionally going for a mistrial. Nope. He was fighting like a banshee. He just has a really bad case. Of course, it was his own decision to charge and then 17-year-old Rittenhouse with murder for shooting 3 psychopathic criminals who were attacking him at the Black Lives Matter Antifa riots at Kenosha last year. That, by the way, is a more accurate summary of the evidence than anything Binger has said. In his closing argument, Binger decided to ignore his loser case and argue that an entirely different case, for which it seemed no evidence had been adduced. Binger posited that Rittenhouse was an active shooter like Sandy Hook or Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Forget that Rittenhouse was not a great school, but in the middle of a riot that did $50 million of damage to Kenosha. Forget that rioters were beating up random people they encountered, including a 71-year-old man protecting a mattress store from being looted who had his jaw and nose broken by a water bottle filled with concrete hurled by, quote, unarmed protesters. Name one active shooter in history who has strolled about with a gun for hours, not shooting anyone until he was chased, cornered, and assaulted. Rittenhouse had a gun not because he was violent, but because the protesters were, as the evidence abundantly demonstrated. As you can see, wonderful protesters right there. And that is Kyle Rittenhouse. But according to Binger, the collection of mental patients, domestic violence offenders, and pedophiles attacking Rittenhouse were heroes, just trying to stop the active shooter. Excuse me. Thus Binger said, I want you to keep in mind that we've all read stories and heard about heroes that step in to stop an active shooter or to give their life to save others. In fact, many people in Wisconsin went out and got carrying concealed weapon permits so that they could just be there in case there was an active shooter and wanting to stop them. Yet apparently, Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, and Gage Grosskreutz were in Kenosha that night to feed the hungry and minister to orphans. Out of nowhere, here comes Rittenhouse. Ooh, that evil Rittenhouse. He was just looking to cause trouble. Who once posted something juvenile on TikTok decided to start randomly shooting innocents. If Binger had tried to introduce what we call again evidence that the men attacking Rittenhouse were Boy Scouts doing good works, the defense would have introduced the bales of evidence that were being withheld from the jury. The colorful backgrounds of Rittenhouse's assailants were probably kept out of evidence inasmuch as he wouldn't have known about their multiple prior crimes when he shot them. Yeah, they conveniently kept all that out, But it's pretty sleazy for a prosecutor to rely on jury ignorance and excluded evidence to paint a picture that he must know to be false of the men who attacked the defendant, their pure as snow motives. The first degenerate criminal was Rittenhouse. Shot was Joseph Rosenbaum out of bond for domestic battery and had been released on mental institution that very day. He was convicted felon for anally and orally raping 5 boys ranging the age of 9 to 11 years old. What a pillar of the community. Luckily for Binger, the jury was not told any of that, so he was free to fantasize about humanitarian impulses surging through the pedophile's mental patient when he lunged at Rittenhouse shouting, "Fuck you," attested by 2 witnesses. Rosenbaum, Binger told the jury, was only trying to stop the defendant from pointing his gun and shooting anyone. Yes, he had planned to collect alms for the poor. So concerned was Rosenbaum for keeping everyone safe that I screamed at the defendant and other civilians, "If I catch any of you alone, I'm going to kill you." That, according to 2 witnesses at the trial. But the prosecutor made damn sure that the jury would never hear about that, not asking state witnesses about Huber's character, specifically in order to prevent defense from introducing evidence to his violent crimes. This allowing Binger to tell the jurors in closing Huber was merely trying to be a hero to stop an active shooter and protect others. Yes, protection is practically gut you like a pig's middle name. It goes on a little bit longer, but you get the gist. You have the judge who basically says to the jurors, yeah, you're going to look at this video in private without anybody around. And of course, now the defense is like, wait a minute, we were given a altered video of what should have been versus what the prosecution showed the jury. I can understand why they would ask for a mistrial. The judge is taking that in consideration, but he is allowing the process to go through. And of course, the jurors, who we now know has been, who's asked for several, not documentation, but several videos and more evidence in regards to self-defense, which is good. Like I said, it's a good thing. Ann Coulter, who is a firebrand, who basically takes no shit from anybody, basically gave you a rundown of what this lovely Assistant DA Binger, basically telling lies to the jurors regarding these three wonderful people. 2 are no longer on the planet, thank God, and 1 who got his arm blasted to oblivion. But being that he already said, yeah, I pointed at Rittenhouse first before you popped me. Yeah. He tried to excuse all that on a CNN interview, yeah, and that blew up in his face. But at the end of the day, we all kind of know where this is going, and we hope to God the true verdict comes out, the correct verdict, the just verdict comes out at the end. Free Kyle Rittenhouse. And with that being said, I'm Judge Bruce. This is what's next. Want to see more just like this? Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it, and we will catch you guys later. Peace.